Hi, this is Dr. Scott, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the next part of our series, In the Fed. This is about the big corporations and how they're closing little by little. It's because they've been supporting a narrative that is just dying in many ways. We're going to show a couple videos, and then we're going to kind of get into a narrative that I actually got into with Grok. It's fascinating that AI gets into conversations. I'll start with the conversation I had actually about myself. It's fascinating with that. So I said, tell me about Dr. Scott Young. And, I said, well, this guy gets into conspiracy theories and, and it's said, this Nasara thing and in the Fed. And kind of said some other things. And I said, so why do you use like the BS conversations about this stuff? And why do you use conspiracy theories and a few other things? And I kind of beat it up about some of these things that other people would use emotional conversations with. And it's fascinating. An AI didn't take the emotional conversation with it. Really interesting because Mel K actually has a book, and it's an audio book. I'm going to tell you something that you guys really have to really consider. Something that you ought to also be reading. It's called Americans Anonymous. Or you can't see it, but Americans Anonymous. It's a book that came out this past year. Americans Anonymous. You can get it on Audible. You could buy the real book or the physical book, and it's a very good book about how all Americans need to come together and we need to fight for our country together, no matter what we believe on any side of this, because who cares about those idiots in Washington or in the state capitals? We need to care about, the freedom principles, because those idiots who are in government, who have hated the people, they have not cared about us. We have got to take back our government. And that's actually really central to what we're actually talking about inside of what we're dealing with today. So it's fascinating. I'm on an audio book that's literally in the same conversation. So I'm going to try to put it in the descriptors here today. So here's what I want you to see. We're going to talk. I clipped a lot of her video here because it would just go on for a very long time frame here. So look at what she says here.
This year, and it's looking more and more like, so a lot of stores are closing this year, and it's looking more and more like it did back before 2008.
Macy's is closing over 150 stores in the U.S., and I went to the downtown Brooklyn location, and when I say my millennial heart is so sad.
After they locked up all of their products in cages and then understaffed all of their stores so that there's really no one to unlock any of the products in cages, and they are shocked that retail sales went down. And I gotta tell you, in today's current employment market, everyone's being laid off across the board. Thousands of employees every day without notice, without cause, are being laid off. And I have not heard anything about the Walgreens executives being laid off for their gross incompetence.
Second largest pharmacy chain announced big cutbacks today. Walgreens will close 1,200 stores in the next 3 years, and that's about 14% of its stores. The company, which has lost more than $8.5 billion this fiscal year, says about 1 in 4 Walgreens stores is unprofitable.
What they are calling the Great Restructuring. And essentially, it is consolidation of people and humans within an organization as they blend with technology. It basically means that companies are looking to get rid of irrelevant job titles, job roles. They're looking to get rid of these massive teams that don't get anything accomplished for 3 or 4 years. I've spoken to so many people who have been laid off over the last 2 to 3 years, and I've noticed something. The bigger the company they are at, the less impact they actually have, which makes their resume really, really hard to work.
Bankrupt Rite Aid has also closed more than 1,000 locations across the country as it goes through the bankruptcy process. I don't even know the last time that I saw a Rite Aid. I mean, those stores have been closing down for a long time, but Macy's and Kohl's closing down, what does that tell you? People are not spending the money like they used to, even on credit.
So it's fascinating. She's got some really good points in there. We're going to talk a lot more about Walgreens and CVS, and I'll get into that a little bit more. This is just a video downtown San Francisco. We could do this in LA. We could do this in a lot of different areas.
AT&T store, they recently closed it, and this used to be the Gap store. Gone. So are all of these. All of these are closed too. Closed. Let's see what else we have here. Yep, here's another one. Closed. That is actually open. We have a store that's open. This one's closed. This one's way gone. All closed. See? Retail for lease. And as we continue on this block, so out of this block, only one store was open. For lease. Now, I don't know what this used to be, but it for sure is closed. Nothing left.
Not only are you about to go down,
But not the Old Navy. Old Navy is now Dead Navy. Okay, we're out of here. Couldn't take that craziness any longer. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.
So this kind of stuff is just happening everywhere. I mean, you just think about this and it doesn't seem like a big deal. As a business owner, what happens is that most commercial real estate have to be 80% full to accomplish even break-even numbers. And that was when you would say interest rates were at 3 or 4%. With interest rates at 7 or 8%, they have to be 90, 95%. Frankly, they're unsustainable. And if you didn't see my my other video about this in the Fed, about housing and commercial real estate, it's off the chart, guys. It's unsustainable of any way, shape, and form. That's why in the background, I know it looks orange. I can't make it red. When you have things in the red, that means bad. Okay, that's why I try to make it red here. So to give you an idea, I'm going to bring up on the screen here a couple interesting areas. I'm going to put my glasses on here. There are more stores closing. 2,500 stores closing. Sorry, using the wrong screen here. And let me bring this up a little closer. Sorry. Use the wrong roll up here. 2,500 stores closing. That was in March of 2025. And listen, President Trump, I love Trump, but the tariff thing doesn't fix this. There's more to the story if you think that tariffs are the only fixing issue. Party City, these kinds of things can't fix it. Joanne Kroger's are closing left and right. 45,000 stores by 2029. Walmart closing, Costco, Target. These big firms left and right are closing everywhere you turn around. 500 Big Lot stores left and right. Those guys are closing. Walgreens, we'll get into that one in a second. Family Dollar stores. There was a dollar store down the way that just opened up, and I was going, what? Macy's, you saw that. Okay. Kohl's, they've been putting in Amazon returns. They're trying to have some relevancy. They're not making it. JCPenney's left and right. They have been just dying on the vine, right? Now, here's an interesting conversation I want to get into. The CVS and Walgreens, And this is this was an interesting article. This is done by, again, NPR, that's going to have a incredibly left-leaning viewpoint. They just got, they got hacked or they got canned here just recently too. So you're going to see an incredible left-leaning viewpoint on this. The problem with the stores are some points about that they can't keep up because the simplest problem with the store are the scale. Yes, yes, and a little bit no. The problem of prescriptions. And they talk about prescriptions, very interesting conversations. And I'll try to put these in the description areas. Hoping to reinvent is the cure. Cute statement with that too. CVS and Walgreens are facing tough competitions from prescriptions. What? No, they were the only place where you could kind of get a prescription. I mean, sure, you could kind of get your prescriptions online, but I'm very confident over a 2-3 year period, we have reset the framework for the reimbursement discussions. No, I don't think so. Okay. Now, here is another article, again, very left-leaning conversation. They talk about pharmacy staff. They are working them like dogs. Now, here's the COVID narrative. They throw this one out. These people they're working them like dogs, like you cannot believe. They make them come in on ungodly hours. They have a huge number of people, and I want you to understand this. The pharmacists are making anywhere from 112 to 126K. That's a really good salary. I mean, think about that as a number, okay? Now, that person has to have a doctorate to be able to work in the field, okay? But again, that is an issue, but they have an incredible amount of work issue that they have to do every day. And they just don't have enough people that happens in there. And there is a statement in here, and I want to see if I can show you the statement. They come in, they arrive early, and then they come in at 8 a.m. They're coming in with a huge amount of paperwork, and which each one of them take about 5 or 10 minutes. I want to show you this one statement here. There was a statement in here that was pretty interesting. Let's see here, because it was I'm trying to find this little statement that they made at the end. Basically, what this person said is that by the end of the day, they just wanted to crash at the end of the day. And I found it fascinating. So, as I got into this, I was digging into this article and digging into several articles. They have no idea the cost that the pharmacies are actually dealing with. Look at the store location. They're actually seeing 600 to 1,000 people a day. If you are shooting up 1,000 people a day, in this way, think about what kind of toll that does to you. Because if theirs is even close, and that is the board that says 38,000 people, and maybe as a million to 2 million people might have been harmed by that little shot thing. And here's the thing. The last time I was at a Walgreens, this woman was giving a liturgy, and I do use the religious term in that statement, the liturgy to a baby boomer, a little bit older baby boomer than me, and a statement of all the different things that could be wrong that he could get. And listen, as a guy who's had over a half dozen full-on surgeries, and I've had dozens of other medical procedures on my knee and several other areas of my body, I have never even listened to a physician or a technician ever read me off a liturgy of statements that could go wrong in a procedure. I mean, the last massive one that I had, they said, well, there was a 5% chance of a particular event that could go on. And that actually happened to me, and which I didn't even look up. And I wish I had, because I would have said, no, we're not going to do that particular surgery, right? And yet this went on, and it was over the shot, right? The jab. And I'm like, think about what that does to these people. So we're seeing a massive amount of closures to these places, right? So you're seeing the closures that are happening left and right to these companies, right? And so you're saying that huge amount of closures that are happening, and 9,000 stores are closing. And I had this running conversation with Grok, and I said, so these closures are happening ever since 2020, 2023. And you don't think that the closures are happening related to the COVID scam, right? And it said, no, I don't think so, basically. And so I kept pushing Grok on this one point, right? It's kind of almost a funny point out there that I was doing. And what I'm trying to show is that their narrative is dying. And so this is part of the COVID narrative is killing off, and there's a fiat narrative at the same time. So the corporations are dying, which is hurting the fiat, which is hurting the COVID narrative. And they're happening all at the same time frame. And so all of this stuff is happening at the same moment in time. It is a literal unfixable point. And guys, if you think that you could walk in here and go, you know what, we can keep going and everything just gets better without ending the Fed and doing a radical fix, I say, think again. Guys, we have to end the Fed. We have to go back onto a go-back currency, which has to mean a third thing: no more IRS. Those are my three main narratives. And guess what? They are so radical. They're so wild. And I've been saying that since 2020. They all have to happen. And guess what also occurs? An EBS, guys, they're coming. They're on the way. And I know you're sitting there and saying, it hasn't happened yet. These little signs are sitting out there, and they're waiting for it to run. As soon as some of the issues of the military, because I always say military is the only way. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Thanks so much.